So I was going to hold off for a little while before I did another video about the Ukrainian cinematic universe, because there was a lot of updates that I covered in the last video. We had the five guys in the boat who partook in like the conspiracy thriller, murder mystery whodunit, where they somehow were able to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline and no one's investigating it. And in Europe, there's like this big hush hush where everybody knows who did it, but no one really wants to say. So we had that film that came out. We have the upcoming spring offensive that keeps getting delayed due to a lack of funding, in which Ukraine is somehow going to retake Crimea and the rest of the Donbass, despite having fewer soldiers, far vastly less ammunition, the Russians having air superiority, and the Ukrainians being out of air defense missiles. And then we had the a video game announcement with the release of the new tech focus tree by Paradox for Poland, where there's going to be, for the modern day scenario mod, there's going to be the Reform the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth tech focus tree, where if Ukraine goes to war with Russia, Poland can offer to intervene in the war in exchange for getting Galicia. It's kind of like the I forget if it was the third or second or third Italian War of Independence, where France joined in exchange for Savoy, I think it was. France joined in during the Austro-Italian War, or whichever one it happened to be. So this morning I was just going through my Twitter. I was like, what kind of crazy stuff has Andrew Tate said today? Is he talking about his yoga fire? Is he talking about how having sex with trannies is based? And this popped up. This wonderful news source that always publishes only the most factually accurate information. And I was actually shocked. So they call themselves the largest Eastern European media. And wouldn't you know it, they actually have over 1 million followers. So this isn't just some like random small time outfit. This is even bigger than the Taliban's fake Twitter account. So I saw this pop up, and I just said, after I read the first line, fuck off. Like, they aren't even trying. This is the worst propaganda I think I've ever seen. Like, there's no way this is true. And we're going to go through why there's no way this is true. And it's like, if you guys you're just not trying. It's like when Russia did the 99% voted to join the Russian Federation. It's like, maybe try to pick like a plausible number. Try to pick like 60, 70% maybe. If you really want to go for broke, do 80. Don't do 99%. Obviously, it wasn't that high. That's blatantly false. And if you're trying to come up with propaganda numbers, you have to make them sound extreme, but also somewhat plausible. And for whatever reason, they didn't do that. So what am I referring to? Russia left without military special forces. Up to 95% of its fighters were killed in Ukraine. Now, I understand this is Eastern European media and they might not speak English very well. But when I hear killed in Ukraine, I assume that means killed in Ukraine. But that means not captured, not wounded, not missing, not anything else. But 95% of all the special forces in the Russian Federation have been killed in the last year. They've taken a 95% death rate. And that is fucking impossible. That is impossible for so many reasons. We're going to go through some of like the biggest battles in history, and the most catastrophic defeats I could find are nowhere near a 95% death rate. Very few battles are even that high if you include captured and wounded. But it's like the German Sixth Army at Stalingrad didn't suffer nearly that high. The Serbian army in World War I didn't suffer that high casualties. The Paraguayan army during the War of the Triple Alliance, I don't even think suffered casualties that high. The Romans didn't suffer casualties that high at Cannae or River Trebia or any of Hannibal's other victories. So we're going to go through this. Now, obviously, it's the original story to anyone with like half a brain is it's not 95% killed, even though they're reporting this. And once again, it's like we're supposed to just take this at face value. That, like, oh, the pro Ukrainian media is reporting 95% were killed. You're just supposed to accept that. That, like, okay, they fucked up so bad that 95% casualties, including people who were wounded, captured, missing. Um, that all just means killed. The guy who got maybe a bit of shrapnel in his arm, he went back, got a dressing, rested for a couple days, and came to the front. That's the same as someone being killed. We're just supposed to take that. So this is what the Washington Post reported based on the Pentagon leaks. There's no source for it, of course. We'll get into it. The evidence the Washington Post like includes is fucking amazing, but it's gonna take decades for Russia to rebuild combat ready units. And I mean, let's even look like they couldn't even keep it consistent within their own propaganda. Of the 5 separate Russian special operations brigades that returned from combat operations in Ukraine in late summer 2022, all of them except one suffered significant losses. Now, what does significant losses mean? That could be anywhere from like 5 to 95%. And if one didn't suffer significant losses, that would mean it suffered less than half, right? Because not suffer, like it can't be more than half, right? If it's in, okay, so one didn't suffer significant losses. If we're going to say that insignificant losses is like 10%, then that's like 18%. Like it doesn't make sense. That one brigade alone would account for more than 5% of those who survived. Even if all the brigades suffered 90% death rate, they still would, like, it still wouldn't be that high. Like, it's not even, it's just not, it doesn't make sense. And they say this in the same post. And if you look at the brain dead people in the comments section, there's like even some pro-Ukraine people who are like, this is retarded. There's no way that this is the case. And they call him a bot, of course. When you make propaganda, don't make it too obvious. Let's see here. Link to channels, analyze this tweet. This guy is a bot. Also, if Russia lost 95% of its special forces, like, how are they still fighting in the field? I get that it's not their regular army, but how is Ukraine getting pushed out of Bakhmut? How is Ukraine not retaken the rest of the country? If Russia's taking losses this high, I mean, it's kind of a self-ode at the same time. Because it's like, we suck so much that we wiped out all of the special forces of our opponents, and we still can't win this war. Like, so all these people are just taking this. They're just like, good, now finish the other 5% to get a perfect score. Like, these people believe it. They had to be quite special. It's bad planning plus bad logistics. This happens when you underestimate your enemy. That's just what happens. So let's take a look at some of the other. Okay, here we go. 95% killed and 0 wounded. Then apparently, lol. I'm pro-Ukrainian, but this claim is ridiculous. 95% of special forces. I think it's ridiculously good. Doubting based off of what? Russian intelligence, your opinion. Okay, so let's look at some of, let's just kind of break this down. So here is the bloodiest battles that America suffered, specific units within the American army suffered in a single battle. It's very hard to find turnover for an entirety of a war. It's kind of hard to count because a battalion might start off the war, or a division might start off the war, 10,000 people. All 10,000 of those people die over the course of the war, but its strength is still 10,000 because it's getting reinforcements. When they say 95% are killed, I'm assuming that is like 95% are killed, and if they were being replaced, then it would be less than 95%, because then it would be a smaller percentage of the total, like it, whatever. So we have one battle in the history of the United States of America in which they suffered casualties that high. A unit did, which was some battle during some war with the Amerindians. And it was a small unit who died out in the middle of nowhere. Also, it wasn't, wait a minute, it's not even that they were killed. Okay, even in this, the worst casualty rate ever suffered by the US Army, it was nowhere near 90% of them actually died. It was only like 2/3 of them died. We have, let's see here, one from Gettysburg. It doesn't say what happened to them, so I don't really know. And then after that, we go down like further and further. Even in the like the battles where the entire unit gets wiped out, it's still not 95% get killed. Like unit size, it's just not. I don't know if there's an example of this. So let's take a look at some other stuff. Okay, so some of the highest casualties relative to a population that have ever been suffered in human history is Serbia during World War One. During World War One, Serbia did not surrender and held out against the Austro-Hungarians and the rest of the Central Powers, more or less single-handedly for a lengthy period of time. They drove out the Austro-Hungarians multiple times. Truly, I think one of the great achievements in human endurance in history and willpower. When I did my list of World War One tier list, Serbia got an S because they punched way above their weight. I think something like 25% of the country's population died during it. It was a disaster. According to Serbian government statistics reported in 1924, Serbia mobilized about 1 million men, and of those, 365,000 died. And that's one of the highest casualty rates ever, and that is 35% dead. That is nowhere near 95%. Let's look at some other stuff. Deadliest battles, according to Insider. Antietam, 3% dead. Gettysburg, 4% dead. During the Paraguayan War, there was one battle that was 9% dead. Okinawa was really, really high. Let's see here. Argent Forest, which was, I think, the bloodiest in terms of overall casualties in World War One. I mean, as a percentage of attacking forces, that was 40% died. Battle of Cannae, one of the bloodiest battles in human history, was only 50%. None of these are anywhere close to 95%. So let's look at what the actual articles said. Also, according to the US Army's own studies, I think they've said that a unit can't survive a loss of more than 50% of its fighting strength without basically being rendered combat ineffective. I mean, Binkov's talked about this. I've seen other people talk about this. What we're supposed to believe is that Russia was taking casualties this high, and they continued to send their soldiers into battle, their elite, highly trained special forces into battle, despite taking a 95% casualty rate, made no changes, made no attempts to save any of their soldiers. That's just how retarded they are. That's how dumb the Russians are. That's why Ukraine has, like, if Russia actually was this dumb, how did they, like, occupy part of Ukraine? How are they even, like, it's just, I don't know, just the level of, okay. So here we go. We're going to look at the most legitimate of news sources, the New York Post. The Ukraine war has decimated Russian elite special forces known as Spetsnaz. which with some of the prize units suffering up to a 95% wait a minute, up to 75%. The title says suffered 95%. And this says casualty rate. And this says 95% killed. Already none of these are consistent. Let's see here. Catastrophic personnel loss, over-reliance on these highly skilled commando units. Considering it takes about 4 years to train a single Spetsnaz officer, U.S. officials suggest it will take Moscow a decade to replenish. Let's see here. Russian military brass had decided to throw the specially trained soldiers into battle in a bid to seize the momentum because they apparently did not trust conventional infantry soldiers to accomplish their objectives. Yeah, like they didn't throw any of the mobilized 300,000 dudes into battle, but they threw their special forces. I don't know, like charging. Is it like the end of fucking The Last Samurai or something? Let's see here. Okay, where is this? Washington Post first reported. Okay, so the leaked documents, they aren't going to show us the leaks to the documents. You're just going to have to take our word for it. There's no source. The command, okay, so the image, which is not shown in this article, that's cool. So the image that's not shown in this article shows a motor pool in southern Russia packed with tactical vehicles. The image taken in November 2022, months after the brigade's return from its deployment to Ukraine, shows the same site but with fewer than half of the number of tactical vehicles the unit had prior. So if there's half as many vehicles, that means 95% of them died. That's the only conclusion that we can, and let's just go to the Washington Post article. Like, this is definitive evidence that the Russian special forces have taken 95% casualties. That there was a motor pool from a satellite photo of a motor pool from November 2021 and November 2022. And that proves it. That proves that the entire Russian special forces suffered 95%. Like, once again, if it was half as many cars, wouldn't that be 50%? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So now we're going to have to, like, draw back a bit. Because people like me, pro-Russia trolls, are going to start to say, like, this is retarded. There's no way that this is true. Okay, so according to leaked documents, the 347th Spetsnaz unit lost nearly the entire brigade with only 125 personnel active out of 900 deployed. Now, is 125 out of 900, is that 95%? Let's do some math. 125 divided by 900. No, that is not. That is 86% casualties. So even their one cherry-picked unit is not the case, and that would be casualties that would not be killed. Another unit, the 25th Spetsnaz Regiment, apparently never made it back to Russia from Ukraine, possibly due to extremely heavy casualty rate and equipment losses. Where is the evidence? I don't see any evidence. I need a fact check here. Look, guys, we're linking to another thing. Let's see what the Washington Post does. The Washington Post, who their tagline is "Democracy dies in darkness," as they put all their content behind a paywall. Surely they're going to have a source for this. Okay, let's see here. The finding, which had not been previously reported, is among a cache of sensitive materials leaked online through the messaging platform Discord. U.S. officials attributed... There's a spelling error there. I think so. Is there a space there? No, there isn't. Okay. Attributed their assessments to Russian commanders' over-reliance on the specialized units, which have been put to use as part of frontline infantry formations, because America never does that with the Marines. those formations, like the Ukrainians, have suffered massive numbers of dead and wounded. I thought it was just dead. Typically, Spetsnaz personnel are assigned the sorts of stealthy, high-risk missions, including an apparent order to capture Ukraine's President Zelensky, for which they receive some of Russia's most advanced military training. Senior commanders, eager to seize momentum and skeptical of their conventional fighting prowess, deviated from their norm, ordering elite forces into direct combat. According to U.S. intelligence findings, the rapid depletion of Russia's commando units, observers say, shifted the war's dynamic from the outset, severely limiting Moscow's ability to employ clandestine tactics. Okay, so here's the evidence. The magical motor pool. We got a motor pool. We got it. The hauling of these units appears to be evident in satellite imagery, before and after photos of one base in southern Russia, because the vehicles couldn't have been moved anywhere else. Like, it's the, like, okay. All but one of 5. Okay, so they took heavy losses. The slide includes two overhead images, fewer than half of the number of vehicles it had before the deployment, which means it took 95% casualties. Now they're saying that only 3 Spetsnaz brigades took 90 to 95%. The other 2 didn't, but somehow that adds up to 95% for all 5. We have, once again, the 125 of 900 accounts to 95% casualties. Personal equipment losses could explain why there is no clear signature of the return to garrison. They don't know. They didn't go back to the same spot they were before the war. That means they're all dead. That means that there's nowhere else they could have gone. So let's see here. I don't know. So that is where we're at the moment. That Russia has taken 95%. So it could be 95% dead. It could be 95% casualties. It could be significantly less than that if you look at the numbers that they use, like within the same fucking post that disproves their nonsense. Like, it's embarrassing, guys. If you're gonna like come up with propaganda, say like 40%. I could even believe 40. 40% in a war is massively high. That's, once again, higher than I think pretty much anybody's. I think not. I'm not even sure. No, Serbia didn't even suffer 40% dead in World War One, let alone 40% casualties. Like, they could have said 40% casualties. They could have said like 20 to 30% dead. I might have even been willing to consider that. But they just decided to make it up, and we're supposed to take these people seriously. And people say, well, Argent, Russia does stuff like this. You know what? Feel free. If you find something really retarded that's being reported by mainstream media, that Russia has put out there, then as truth, then I will cover it. So if Russia's made some claim that they've killed like 1 million Ukrainians, or Ukraine has lost 95% of its special forces, or I could do one on the whole like Hearts of Iron 4 focus tree where Poland's going to annex Western Ukraine. Just come